to Week 3 of the 1995 Intel World Chess Championship, and the game of intellectual karate continues. Neither side is yet able to land a killer blow. The reigning champion for 10 years, Garry Kasparov, was supposed to dominate this match in a wipeout. But the young upstart Viswanathan Anand has been cool under pressure, meeting the champ toe-to-toe. Two mighty giants in the world of chess continue their battle from the top of the world to see who will be king. Hello and welcome to Week 3 of the 1995 Intel World Chess Championship.
Hello, I'm Maurice along with Grandmaster Danny King. Well, the past 2 weeks have seen a record-breaking 8 consecutive draws to begin a World Championship match. And Danny, people are beginning to wonder if these guys are actually afraid of each other.
Yeah, some of the games did give that impression, but make no mistake, at the end of last week, they were really going for each other. They were tough, hard fights. So this week, I'm predicting blood will be spilt.
Well, most experts felt that Anand would be way behind at this stage of the match. Garry Kasparov is famous for his lightning-fast starts. But Danny, Anand has to be feeling pretty good about himself, even with the world champion.
The Indian has played excellently, so I think this week the pressure is all on Kasparov to show his stuff.
And it is in fact a rare event when Kasparov doesn't win a game in 8 consecutive tries, but Anand has managed to hold him to just that, and the score is tied at 4-4. Game 9, Anand arriving to the board, looking to defeat Kasparov for the first time in this match with the white pieces.
So far, Anand hasn't been able to exploit the advantage of the white pieces, but perhaps after this weekend, he'll have prepared something wicked.
And as Anand readied himself, the big question was, where was Garry Kasparov? Arbiter Kao Jarecki checking her watch, wondering where he was, but she had to start the clock. The game scheduled to begin promptly at 3.
Some players actually like to use this tactic of arriving late to distract their opponent. This was a favourite ploy of world champion Bobby Fischer, but normally Kasparov is pretty punctual. So there he goes, he's arrived about a minute and a half late, he's just steadying himself at the board before making his first move. Anand doesn't seem to be ruffled by Kasparov's late entrance, and the game kicks off.
And we jump ahead to move 12, and the question was, what new wrinkle did Anand have to play today?
They've reached this position before in the previous games in the match, but now bishop to f3 from Anand. That's the first new move, and potentially a much more aggressive one, and Kasparov knows it.
Kasparov leaning back there, a new plan of attack divined by Anand in his camp, looking to blow Kasparov's head off.
Well, the bishop on f3 covers that important pawn on e4, as well as covering the king if white wants to advance on the king side.
So Kasparov continuing with his bishop to d7, and the knight dropping back to b3, and then suddenly knight moving over to a5, an exchange on that square, the queen capturing on a5.
Well, Kasparov realizes how dangerous the situation could be. That's why he's forced these exchanges.
And Anand suddenly massing his pieces on the left half of the board, a bit of a surprising strategy, Danny.
Well, this is amazing. We thought he was going to go for the king, but he's developed an initiative, a very strong initiative, on the left side of the board, on the queen side, and now advancing his pawn, hitting the queen.
And Kasparov returning to the board, his queen under heavy assault, and he needed to deal with this spatial advance that Anand was trying to get a lock on the queen side.
The queen can't take the pawn, it would be trapped, so it has to retreat here.
And Anand continuing the march of his pawns, attacking the bishop and forcing it to go back.
That's a very important move. The black bishop, potentially such a strong piece, looking at Anand's center.
And now Anand massing his forces, his rook sliding over to the b1 square, and Kasparov exchanging, trying to get rid of some of the attacking forces.
Kasparov leaving the booth and going back to his dressing room. He's quite at liberty to do that after he's made his move. Well, there's a rare sight. Neither player actually sitting at the board. Very strange indeed. But Kasparov's concentration doesn't seem that good during the match.
Anand now quickly returning to the board, sensing that his assault is really building, preparing now to go in for the kill, and his knight captured the pawn on b5.
So White's knight is attacking the black queen and the black pawn on d6 in the center of the board. So Kasparov, it seems as though he's forced to exchange off the knight.
But that didn't help as the white queen posted up like Shaquille O'Neal, capturing the bishop on b5, and the space was beginning to grow. Kasparov moving his rook to a8, but then Anand getting more of a lock with the move c4.
White has tremendous position here. There's the pressure from the queen and rook down on the pawn on b7, and White's central space advantage as well as the two bishops. They're so powerful.
That bishop slicing into the position, attacking black's queen, forcing it to retreat, and Anand exchanging off pawns in the middle of the board.
Well, this increases Anand's advantage because now the rook on d1 controls the only open file in the position.
And Kasparov was feeling the heat now. His queenside a wreck with almost no moves to make, no active plans at all, and he felt for the first time that now he was going to be blown off the board. Anand there sensing that he had the possibility to win his first game.
Well, Kasparov's demeanor says it all. He is worried here. He's in big trouble.
And after a big think, he could do nothing better than retreat his bishop, and Anand slowly advanced with the move pawn to h3.
That's a very good move, taking away a crucial square from Kasparov's knight and giving his king a little more room.
And after queen to e6, Anand played the absolutely spectacular move, rook to d5.
This is a superb move. He's giving up the rook for the knight, but he would get tremendous positional compensation. And Kasparov can't believe it that Anand has given up material. But slowly, it dawns on him that this is a stroke of genius.
And Kasparov there feeling the pressure. Anand's pieces swarming over his position. And finally, he did capture that rook. But after Anand took back with the pawn, Kasparov was forced to move his queen.
This is a tremendous position for Anand. Those center pawns are just going to roll down the board, pushing away Kasparov's pieces.
Anand feeling it now, the pawns swarming down the board. Anand remaining cool, knowing inside that he had the world champion on the ropes. And Kasparov himself aware of it, trying to act calm, trying to act relaxed, but he knew he was in deep trouble.
No, he's muttering under his breath now. I mean, that's not a sign he feels comfortable.
Well, trying to fight back was the champion. He played the move e4.
Kasparov would love to push that pawn down the board, but the bishop retreats and securely blockades it.
And Kasparov tried to attack Anand's pawn, but queen to d7, a magnificent post-up move.
A brilliant idea. The queen effectively cuts black's position in two. Not only does the queen attack the pawn on b7, but it defends his king as well. Superb.
And Anand defending his king side as Kasparov trying to do something, now advancing his pawn, but it seemed all in vain as Anand marched his pawn down the board.
Kasparov's thrashing around on the king side, but basically there's nothing he can do in the long term to prevent Anand's pawns from marching home. Once they get to the 8th rank, that'll be the end of the game.
And after that last move, king to h2, both of Kasparov's rooks were under heavy attack, and there was no move for him. He was totally dead, about to lose too much material, and Kasparov, totally red, totally desperate in this position, having no move at all, and the champion sensing defeat. Incredible.
He knows he's lost, and he must be regretting capturing Anand's rook in the middle of the board. It just left the pawns too strong in the center.
And the bear had been caged. Kasparov finally admitting that he was lost, resigning, totally disgusted with himself, now down a point in this match.
As ever, Anand looking totally self-composed, but underneath it all, he must be ecstatic. This is a tremendous upset. He's taken the lead.
It's finally a win. Anand taking the lead 5-4, and afterwards he tried to keep the victory in perspective.
Fishy, 8 consecutive draws, and finally the first win. And I think that if you had asked some people on the street, they might have said, well, we think, Garry will have the first win. Of course, you have the first win. How do you feel after the game?
I feel pretty good. I mean, a win is nice, whether it comes after 8 draws or it comes immediately or whenever. And it's just good. I mean, nothing more than that. It's still, the match still goes on. But, hey, I'm happy. I mean, I can feel happy for today, and that's about it. There's no need to suddenly change what I'm doing or anything like that.
The true measure of a champion when they're down is that they come back harder than ever. What do you expect from Garry tomorrow?
He's going to come back and try and win some games as well. But, okay, this is what he was doing anyway, so just more of it.
With a couple of days off to prepare and to think about where you would be in the match after 8 draws, are you on target with your game plan? Did you have a long-range game plan over the match?
No, it's not time to take stock or this or that. I'm just playing, that's it. It's not time for reflection. It's just way too early for that.
Well, at the beginning of Game 10, Garry Kasparov was obviously trying to look composed after the devastating loss at the hands of the challenger in Game 9. Game 10.
Having won yesterday, Anand must be feeling pretty good, but this is the moment when he's at his most vulnerable, and Kasparov will be looking to exploit that. He'll want to hit back straight away.
And if we jump ahead to move 13, Anand played the move Queen to D3, all the same as they had played the previous week in Game 6.
It was here that Kasparov in Game 6 played his knight to F3, offering a queen exchange, and Anand got a reasonable position. But here, Kasparov came up with the big new move, bishop to C2, hitting the queen.
And Anand now forced to consider this new plan, this new wrinkle on this old opening that obviously Kasparov had studied with his seconds at home.
So Anand swipes off this pawn, so he's now a pawn up. But Kasparov has tremendous compensation in the shape of the 2 bishops. They're so powerful.
And Kasparov's last move, knight to B3, a spectacular move, sacrificing a whole rook.
The problem is, if Anand takes the rook, then his king is so exposed, he could be in terrible trouble.
And Kasparov feeling very cool. He had baited Anand into the trap, and now it was a question if the young Indian could get out of this position.
Well, he's moved his knight into the center. What he's trying to do is he's going to grab one of those bishops and hope to exchange pieces and ease the attack, but very difficult indeed.
And Kasparov leaping up with his queen, clouds gathering around the black king, and Anand accepted the rook.
Well, normally, if you go a rook down in chess, that's it. You're going to lose the game. But here, Kasparov has tremendous compensation. Anand's king is so exposed, he could get checkmated at any moment, and Kasparov has crashed in. There we see the move again. Bishop takes e6. He's not hesitating over his moves at all.
And continuing the magnificent aggressive play was Kasparov sacrificing a bishop, and Anand felt the avalanche.
Well, that's a brilliant move. Not only is Anand's queen in the corner threatened, but there's a threat to the pawn on g7 too, smashing through to his king.
So Anand moving his queen, but the bishop ripping off the pawn on g7.
And now Kasparov's queen ready to enter into the game. Anand trying to defend with his queen.
And that threw the champion a bit off guard. That queen leaping back into the game, and Kasparov had to rethink his strategy. He still had a better position, but could he really win as easily as he wanted to?
Well, up to this moment, Kasparov had spent just 5 minutes over the first 20 moves, and Anand about an hour. But it was here that Kasparov really had to knuckle down and find the correct way through.
And he plowed on, exchanging off pieces. The queen's leaving the board, the bishop now capturing the queen, and Anand taking back on e7 with his king.
Okay, so we've reached an endgame where Kasparov, playing white, is a rook and a bishop against Anand, rook and a knight. But Kasparov has an extra pawn, and that should be enough to bring him the victory.
And pushing his pawns down the board was Kasparov, his pawn leaping up to f4, and Anand trying to make the most of it on the other side, pushing his pawns.
If Kasparov can force his pawns home using the rook and the bishop, that'll be good enough for victory. But in the meantime, he must be very careful. Anand has very dangerous counterplay with his own pawns.
And Anand trying to rush those pawns down the board, but Kasparov played the spectacular defensive move, bishop to d1.
This is a great move. Not only does it prevent Anand's pawns from marching down the board, but it also leaves the way clear for his kingside pawns to march up the board.
Anand feeling the pressure, trying to make the most of it, advancing his pawn to a3.
But now Kasparov is in control. There you go, the pawn advancing on the right side of the board, and Anand can do nothing to prevent them going down.
Those 3 pawns abreast looking very powerful. Kasparov bringing his rook up, and then his king march to the middle of the board, attacking a rook.
So the rook has to retreat, and now Kasparov has taken a second pawn. It's surely all over now.
and Anand in big trouble. Kasparov's pieces posted up in the middle of the board, and Kasparov going ahead, advancing his pawn. Anand trying to check.
King retreats, but now the knight's attacked, and Kasparov can simply keep pushing the pawns. There's nothing that Anand can do.
And that last move, rook to d6, creating a vice on the position. 3 pawns, totally devastating, and there was no point in continuing the massacre, so Anand decided to resign, and Kasparov had scored his first victory in the match.
This was vintage Kasparov. He went for Anand's king from the word go.
With the score tied, Kasparov summed up his feelings about the match.
You spent 2 minutes over the first 20 moves. How long did it take you to prepare it?
48 hours, almost 2 days, a whole weekend. It's very complicated. It's one of the fewer lines when you could afford to sacrifice a rook and to play without concrete threats, visible threats. But White had a very strong attack, and I was hoping that today, first time, Anand would give me a chance to break through.
Okay, tell us how you were feeling after last night. How did you restore yourself?
I had a great idea. One of the problems of yesterday was that I couldn't wait to play with White. I found this idea, and probably the beauty of this idea and the whole the greatness of the combination, affected my chess feelings. I mean, it hurted when I had to probably just to go to quite a passive defense, and I played quite awfully in the opening, and then had a big advantage, and he played very well, increased it, and at the end I just committed suicide. I took on d5. He played rook d5, which was a good move, but I was not obliged to take the rook. I mean, I could do whatever I wanted, rook c8, and he still had to provide a plan.
Okay, but last night, how did you actually restore yourself? You restore your spirit?
I survived the night after game 23 in Seville, and still it's a long match to go. I didn't like it very much, but I wasn't in panic. That was very important. And I just spent time making sure that this sacrifice will work.
Okay, have you got your confidence back now?
Still, it's just a 5-5. This game helps me to restore the confidence, but I still have to solve many problems, and Vichy is well prepared, and it's not easy to invent all ideas like that in every game.
And a jubilant Kasparov talking to the crowd, obviously happy about the win.
Which I want Vichy maintained a substantial positional advantage. I mean, I played it very, very poorly. And yeah, indeed, yes. I just took on d5, which was a complete, suicidal act of suicidal. Still, I could hold the position by just, standing and waiting for him to show the plan.
Yep.
G6, h1, rook c8 for the best bet. Just show the plan, it's up to him. And today, I had my revenge, and I hoped very much that he would go for this line. I was right, and again, unfortunately, I can't answer many questions.
How do you feel now? What's the tenor of the match? Is the momentum turned around after Anand winning such a good game finally against you, and now you winning? Is that...
it's in fact in my interview to Russian television last Friday, I predicted that this week would be very different. Yeah, and I wish I could say so. When you have 8 draws, and it's so much work, it's just behind the curtains, everybody's working hard at home, trying to prepare new ideas, and it was just a triumph of defense for a while, but this tension, should be broken one day, should burst into the action, and that's why, as the inexperienced match player, I was very nervous because this week I expected would be a bloody one, and I think the match will never come back to that stage, draws, because we're all human beings, and there will be probably more mistakes, and I think that's the last game we have to play. More tension will create more excitement for public.
Wow, so it's going to get better, and we'd like to thank world champion Garry Kasparov. We'll be on the watch for more spectacular. And we'd like to thank you for joining us on another win, and we're going to expect more of that. This is going to be juicy, so I expect to see you again. The next game is on Thursday. Have a safe trip home, everybody.
Back in busy New York, where the New York Commodities Exchange is located right here in the World Trade Center.
Well, in the basement of the World Trade, they're buying and selling commodities, while upstairs at the 107th floor, Kasparov and Anand are trading pieces and blows, and even trading games in the last couple of days.
Jump now to Game 11. Anand with the white pieces, Kasparov with the black pieces, and Anand needing to steady himself after losing such a devastating game in Game 10.
That was a really tough defeat, but he has had a day to try and pick himself up. And now, with the white pieces, with the advantage of the first move, he can hope to get something from this game.
Will Kasparov feeling his confidence, playing his traditional Sicilian defense with c5, and Anand responding with the move knight to f3. This is what they've been playing before, and now Kasparov continuing the same with d6.
Well, I mean, this is a little bit risky of Kasparov to repeat his exact same opening from Monday, the game he lost. So, is he going to improve? What's he got in mind?
Well, Anand now getting ready to take the pawn. He takes the pawn in the middle of the board, and they are indeed continuing the dance as Anand plays, looking for some aggressive possibilities here with the white pieces. Kasparov bringing his knight out, attacking the pawn in the middle of the board.
Okay, so Anand just bringing his knight out, defending the pawn, absolutely normal. Now, in all the other games in the match so far, he's played his Najdorf variation.
And look at this, Kasparov playing a dragon variation. What a spectacular change from what he's played before.
Well, that is, as I was just saying, he normally always plays the Najdorf, but here he's played the so-called dragon variation. He's bringing his bishop out onto this long diagonal. This is such a sharp opening. You know, Anand cannot have been prepared for this.
If we jump 10 moves ahead, we see that Anand did not play aggressively against this variation, deciding not to go into a Kasparov trap.
Well, Kasparov seems to have done pretty well out of the opening. He's developing a powerful initiative against Anand's king on the left side of the board. He's got his queen there, his rook there, his pawn is ready to push up. This is, it's looking a bit dodgy for white.
And now Anand trying to bring his knight into the action. Kasparov with a double-barreled rook action down the c-line. So Anand moved his knight into the center of the board, offering the exchange of queens.
Okay, this is a good decision from Anand. I think he had to go for exchanges because he was just getting under a heavy attack.
Well, now taking the knight in the middle of the board was Anand. Kasparov dropping his king back, and it seemed after bringing his rook to the center that Anand had solved most of his problems.
Well, in fact, Kasparov offered Anand a draw, and Anand declined it. He didn't accept it. He wanted to play on and try and squeeze something from this position.
Well, the back and forth motion going on, Anand's king stepping up to b2, and Kasparov charging on the left with his pawn, and then bringing his king over to the g7 square.
But Anand trying to find a way through into Kasparov's position. He has a slight advantage here. His knight in the center of the board, looking pretty powerful.
But now Anand played aggressively with the move b4, and after rook c4, it seemed as if Kasparov was blundering away an exchange.
Well, it would be surprising if Kasparov did give up rook for knight, but Anand thought it was safe to take it.
Now Anand, after a bit of hesitation, played knight to b6, and he was attacking both rooks. Kasparov, rook takes pawn check, king moving up to a3, and then Kasparov played this spectacular move, rook takes c2.
If the rook is taken, the black rook comes down to b3 check. The king must move back, and then there's a horrible discovered check. The bishop checks the king, and then the black rook takes the white rook. Black is left 2 pawns up and has a winning endgame.
A shocking mistake by Anand. He resigned in disgust, and afterwards the champion was feeling pretty confident.
Did you opt for a draw after queen takes d2?
Yeah, I was satisfied with winning the opening duel. If white doesn't play g4 in the dragon, you can't expect much. And surprisingly, Anand showed will to fight in this position. I mean, if you want to play, you have to play g4 at one point. And my evaluation I think was correct. The position is dead draw.
Is it the first time you played the dragon?
I played a few times in the simultaneous games, but if I remember correctly, I never played the pure dragon in the serious tournament game.
Is it the first time it's been played in a World Championship?
No, I think Botvinnik played a few times against Mislov in the 50s. There was no much Syria at that time, as you can imagine. I mean, if you can see the Karpov-Korchnoi in '74, the World Championship match, then Korchnoi played and lost badly, and I don't think it was adopted in recent times, not only in the World Championship matches, but I also don't think it was used in the candidate matches.
Are you really back in business?
I like my situation today much better than a few days ago.
Were you surprised when he refused the offer for a draw and continued playing?
It happened sometime, but it reminded me game 47 in the first match against Karpov when I also offered draw in the deadly equal end game. Karpov turned down the offer and I won the game. It gave me a very good memory and it reminded me about such good moments, and that's why playing this end game I was always looking for a little trick, and eventually I found it, and I was surprised that Anand followed without much thinking.
What did Vishy say after the match?
Okay, he just what he could say. I think he could even save the game after a bad move before if he took on e7. I mean, white was worse, but I mean, I don't know. You have to ask him. Definitely he was not happy.
Did he think you had blundered, perhaps?
I have very little doubt. Fortunately for me, black could save an exchange. To sacrifice an exchange. That's why Vishy, thought probably for a while that I would play. I would try to save the endgame without an exchange, which probably also draw. But I saw this little trick a few moves ago, and I was hoping very much that he would fall for it. Again, black could save the position without playing king g7, but king g7 was, king g7 in fact is quite a risky move because he could take on e7, and then black makes draw by a very precise move order. After knight takes e7 instead of b4, I play rook e8, knight d5, bishop takes d5, b4, 8 takes b4, 8 takes b4, rook c4, rook takes d5. Now rook c8, ec8 is a very important move, attacking pawn on c2. Rook e2, rook takes b4 check, king c1,
okay,
rook c6.
we'll show you
writing all this
d2,
down.
And now looks at black is losing the pawn on d6. When I play rook a6,
He's not done yet.
D1, king d1, rook b1 check, king e2, rook b2, and he cannot improve the position
still
because the
going.
pawn on c2 is also hanging. I saw this line. It's a long line, but it's very easy to calculate. And I
Very easy
felt
to
I didn't have
calculate,
any
he
risk,
said.
and why not to play for a little trick? And also, I think Vishy, after 5 previous games was white, he probably lost. He was not so careful. He just used to play with his king on h1, bishops on f3, e3, and suddenly his king was a little bit exposed, and probably it was a nervous occasion.
Vishy was possibly not careful today. Do you think it was because you surprised him with a new variation?
Obviously, when you change your opening so dramatically, it surprised your opponent, especially because you have to play a different position now. You try to in this classical Skivningen, you play with king on h1, as I said, 2 good bishops, solid position. You try here and there, and maybe you can succeed. I mean, black has to struggle for a draw. I mean, it's not that dangerous, but again, black is passive. Here in the dragon, you have to play g4 and sacrifice the material. Otherwise, you should go to an equal endgame. And I'm sure this dramatic change of style of the game was not a very pleasant event for Vishy in the opening.
How good is this situation for you now?
Still very complicated, but now I'm much better position, and I hope that I seize the initiative, and it was very important for me, not just to equalize after game 9, but also to fight the tendency which was not very pleasant. And I think these 2 games changed not only the score, which is of course number 1 importance, but it also changed the course of the event. And I am very pleased with the situation now. But still, it's nine games to go, and I'm sure you will see a lot of interesting things happening.
Welcome back to the 1995 Intel World Chess Championship, where the last few games have produced a flurry of action.
Garry Kasparov, the world champion, starting to gain control of this match. He's really asserting himself now with 2 victories. Can Anand get back into it? That's the question.
Game 12, Kasparov with the white pieces, Anand with the black pieces, and after losing 2 consecutive games, Anand really had his work cut out for him against Kasparov.
This is a critical game for both players. If Kasparov can win this game, he'll have a 2-point lead and really fantastic chances to retain his title. For Anand, he's got to stay in this match. He's got to hold this game.
So Kasparov beginning with the aggressive move, pawn to e4, Anand responding with e5, but after his stunning loss 2 games ago, one has to be wondering what he had planned for today.
If he can improve on the 10th game, it would be a shocker, because Kasparov's opening preparation was just superb.
And a very confident Kasparov, knowing that he could knock him out and looking definitely to try and win this game. So playing the move bishop to b5, being very aggressive. Anand responding with the move a6, and Kasparov playing the bishop back to a4.
So this is the so-called Spanish opening, over 4 centuries old, but still very current in tournament practice. Anand repeating the moves from game 10.
Playing knight to f6, Kasparov hesitating for but a moment, and then castling with his king. And in game 10, Anand played knight takes e4, the open rear Lopez, but here he played the move b5.
So how was Kasparov going to cope with this new idea?
Well, Danny, he managed to handle it pretty well.
And here in this position, Kasparov has very aggressively posted rooks. Look at that rook on b7, hitting the black pawn. So Kasparov has some initiative in this endgame.
And Kasparov feeling that he could knock Anand out, and he played the aggressive move, pawn to d5.
So the pawn advancing, attacking the black knight. So Kasparov wants to hit the knight, move it out the way, and then he can make progress with his rooks.
Cranking up the pressure was Kasparov, and Anand needing all his defensive skills in this position.
So Anand's just captured a pawn. Kasparov naturally recaptures, attacking the knight. Now, if the knight moves, the rooks can come in and attack the pawns.
And Anand played an unbelievable move, pawn to g4, leaving his knight hanging on c6.
Well, this is a brilliant idea. Instead of going passive, he's seeking to counterattack by attacking Kasparov's knight.
Well, Kasparov surprised by the move, but he handled it fairly well, and a couple of moves later, he came up with an inspired sacrifice, capturing the pawn on c7.
Well, this is a brilliant idea. He's giving away a rook, but what he's trying to do is force that far advanced pawn home. He's trying to force it down to the queening square, get a new queen.
And rook to b8 check, forcing Anand to move his king up to f7, and then the rook coming back to b7, attacking black's rook.
Now, if the rook captures, then the pawn will go through. But Anand finds an accurate defense.
Kasparov trying to get a queen, that pawn looking to score a touchdown, but Anand quickly snuffed that out by sacrificing back his rook.
Well, what has happened here is we've just had a simplification of the position. Both sides have a rook and 3 pawns each, so it looks as though Anand can hold the position.
But Kasparov playing the move rook to a7, attacking that pawn, and Kasparov was feeling very confident about his chances.
But over the next couple of moves, Anand defended very accurately indeed. Both sides have a passed pawn. There we go, Anand pushing it down the board. And this is enough to distract Kasparov, and after a trade of pawns, the position will be balanced.
Well, with so few pieces on the board, the draw was inevitable. Anand had stopped the runaway Kasparov train, but he was still a point down in the match. And we asked Kasparov what effect that would have on Anand's strategy over the next 8 games, especially with a couple of days off to clear his head.
I think it will force him to change the strategy and to play more aggressively, because he has nothing to lose now, and I'm sure it will bring more excitement to the match.
What did he say after the game?
He said he had missed e4 check. Well, I could tell from his score sheet also, so because he had already written gf3 on his score sheet. So.
Was allowing rook b7 a little dangerous for black?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the ending is unpleasant anyway. I have to make some concession of the other. So, I mean, his rook didn't really move from b7. But it's an unpleasant endgame.
What were your assessments of the endgame?
Well, I thought I could play on, and I played on.
How do you feel about the match situation now?
Yeah, it's not brilliant. It was better a couple of days ago, but.
Are you happy with the way the week has ended after Tuesday's and Thursday's games?
No, obviously not. I mean, I much prefer to draw both these games, but okay, it happens.
Were you happy to sort of survive today and better to fight for another day?
Well, going for the hat-trick was certainly not a very pleasant option, that's for sure. So, I mean, I don't think it would have been very wise.
Did you think that Kasparov had blundered yesterday?
I thought he could. I thought it was a choice between going for a rook ending, or going for thing and exchange up, and I just missed rook c2. This was the problem. I thought, well, even the exchange up, I'm not clear. It's not clear that white's winning. It's just white can bottle on, and I thought that was what I was going for.
Are you going to play aggressively in the remaining games?
No, I'm going to sleep now. I don't know what I'm going to do on Monday. So.
The surprises that Garry came out with in Tuesday's and Thursday's game, were you surprised?
Well, without being too long-winded, it's clear that yesterday I should not lose anyway. So it takes some effort to lose this, and because normally speaking, I could just make a draw anytime I wanted. So.
Well, to recap the week's action, Anand won in Game 9, but Kasparov came roaring back in Games 10 and 11. An exciting draw in Game 12. Danny, I gotta feel as if the momentum has shifted in Kasparov's favor.
It has, but it's extraordinary how this has turned around because, after Anand won that Game 9, we all thought that Kasparov was down and out. He looked so restless, so badly concentrated, and yet somehow he managed to come back with the most incredible victory in Game 10.
You gotta wonder if a loss was actually really good for him.
Maybe that was the catalyst. Maybe that was the boost that he needed to hit right back very hard.
Hit back he did. How is Anand gonna bounce back now, down a point in the match against the world champion?
It's gonna be very tough indeed. But he still seems pretty composed, and I think the draw in the last game of the week will give him a lot of self-confidence.
Well, 3 wins in 4 days. Can we expect more fireworks like this?
Well, I think so, because Anand must go for the win. He's behind with only 8 games left, so things are pretty tight.
For Danny King, I'm Maurice Ashley, saying so long from the World Trade Center in New York City.